This is the Crappie Connection, brought to you by Redneck Rubber, Power Crappie, Visit Ridgeland, B&M Poles, K9 Fishing, Cornfield Fishing Gear, Bobby Garland Baits, Genco Fishing, Denali Rods, The Direction TV, Top Hat Jigs, Crappie Magnet, Anderson Minnow Farm,
Hook and Bullet Purpose-Built Optics.
Where the blues was born. About a mile from the big muddy river, place I'll always remember. Cabin on the lake and a fishing pole. Forever here I'll rest my soul. I can feel my worries drift away from being out in the sun all day. No matter where in the world I go, I'll always find home on the banks of that oxbow.
What's up, guys? Brad Chappell back at the Crappie Expo 2022, Branson, Missouri. That right, Ty?
Yeah, and you remember the year.
I know I had to actually kind of almost think about that again, but you know, these two guys, they're not any strangers anymore to the crappie fishing world. They kind of got out there and went about his own ways and started putting these trophies all over the wall. But introduce yourself anyway.
Yeah, so I'm Hayden Jeffries.
Dan Jeffries.
No, Hayden, and he's been on quite a few podcasts, helped me co-host, and we shot some videos together. And Hayden, actually, we got to go back further beyond the Crappie Connection. We built a lot of bicycles together when I had that business. And I kind of kick off on our history together is, you know, I taught Hayden how to build these bicycles, and I think he put in his mind the first thing he wanted to do is make sure he could beat me with doing it. He'd come in and have newer tools and kept getting better and better, and
Right.
and then he would hammer them down, and that's kind of actually the nickname I gave Hayden was the Hammer. Because he's that dedication. And I know everybody asks me all the time, and I'm sure they're asking him and everybody else in this fishing world, what is Hayden Jeffries doing different? What are you doing different?
I would say that I fish at 120% every time I go fishing. I never, sit back and take a day off. If I'm fishing, I'm going to put everything I've got into that. And like this tournament, at the end of the tournament, I'm so sore I don't even want to get out of bed in the morning. I think I'm paying attention to a lot more detail, than most other anglers. Just the way I'm interpreting things and paying attention to, where this big fish was when I caught her, and why she bit this presentation over doing something else with that. And I'm just so competitive. Just like you said, no matter what I do, I'm going to try and always get better. If I devote myself to something, that's it. I'm going to push it as hard as I can. I can't say that I have a secret. Everybody thinks I'm doing something different on my boat or doing something different, with the way I'm setting up my, live scope or whatever. But I don't see it. He might see it standing back there watching me, but I don't see, me doing anything different. I've been in the boat with several other of the top anglers, and it looks exactly the same. The whole system works the same.
I think, and we've discussed it, all of us sitting here, is details. And I think, in my opinion, is you're paying attention so well to details and picking up on them is probably your winning advantage in my mind. And dedication, and man, just being youthful, and accuracy, and just time on the water goes back a lot to that. I mean, I don't know, you're the guy winning it.
Yeah, you definitely
and
have
winning
to,
all of it.
You have to stay in sync all the time. If I take a week off from fishing and I get back out there, I've got to, spend 3 or 4 hours getting back in the groove of things. So I try and stay dialed in all the time. Even if I'm not fishing, I'm thinking about fishing.
Yeah, if Hayden isn't fishing, he's pretty much talking fishing on the telephone.
Yeah, basically so. I live it. You know, this is it.
It's been quite a journey on my end, but Dan, kind of tell us, you know, how did this all come about? I remember Dan and Hayden fishing way years ago on the Ross Barnett,
Yes,
spider rigging.
that's right. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I raised all three of my kids, outdoors and fishing, just having fun, and we didn't target any kind of certain fish. We just went, get a box of crickets, go sit on a brim bed, or, string out a couple of trot lines and try to catch huge catfish in Ross Barnett, or, chasing schooling bass. We've done a little bit of everything, but we never did while growing up, and even when I was growing up fishing Ross Barnett, I never really crappie fished. And probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little longer, some friends of ours, they invited us to go, crappie fishing with them, and we said, sure, heck yeah, I want to test it out. So, we just started out spider rigging, and didn't really know electronics that well, as far as finding fish, and we just go out there and find timber and jig timber, and just kind of grew from there. It's been crazy. I never would have believed anyone if they had told me, 5 years ago where we'd be right now. Pretty amazing.
It is. It's amazing to watch you guys. Like I said, I recall Hayden actually reminded me a couple of years ago about coming by me fishing one day out on the Warfare Hole. Everybody around our area knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say that.
Yep.
But you got to kind of live it, especially to get to your guys' level, and you got to be a committed guy. I mean,
That's right.
And this guy is.
He is. Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't ever tell him he can't do anything.
Yeah. And don't beat him.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. I can look back at 3 or 4 tournaments that really, upset me, and those 3 or 4 tournaments made me who I am.
Which ones are?
The first one would have been March of 2021 on Grenada Lake. We drove up there. It was the first day I've ever laid eyes on the lake. We just picked a spot, went fishing. We came to the weigh-in with one 12-inch crappie that weighed 1.32. Everybody's carrying in these 19, 20-pound stringers. They've got 3.5-pound fish, and I was hurt. I was mad. I thought I, could catch fish, do whatever. And we were on the way home, and I told Dad, never again. I said that was a horrible feeling, and I don't ever want to experience that again. So, the second one would probably be this fall on Watchita River for the bracket showdown. Day 1 I threw a big weight up. Day 2 I threw the heaviest stringer of the day, and then weights reset for the third day, and I lost it by .09. That took a shot at me. If you would add up the overall weight, I would have won it by basically 3 pounds, and I lose by .09. That really upset me. There's 2 more. I'm trying to remember the other 2. But it's that, I want to get beat because it'll make me go back out there, and I'm going to put that much more time in to try and, make sure that doesn't happen again. It was just like building bikes, It's everything I've ever done. If I devote myself to something, I'm devoting 100% of my effort into that.
That's the secret.
That's the secret. That's it. I fish, like I said, at 120% every time I'm on the water.
I know that's Dan. You've got to play such a big role in this deal, and I think that you don't get enough credit by sticking in the back of that boat.
100%.
And keeping him on track mentally. I mean,
That's right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's several tournaments I'll start beating myself up. Something doesn't go right. Big fish doesn't bite. We're not seeing the fish we were seeing the day before, anything like that. And he carries his into the team. Everybody thinks, oh, Hayden just gets up there, catches all the fish. Dad's just back there running the net. No, it's so much more to that. Dad, he's trying to give me every second he can on that trolling motor looking for fish.
Yeah.
And whatever he can do to give me that extra second or 2 can make a difference in second place in this tournament or $100,000. And he knows that. He's not interested in getting it up there and trying to catch a fish during a tournament or anything like that, because he knows if anybody's capable in this boat of catching that fish, it's Hayden. And I don't want to get in his way of what he's doing. I just want to be here to do whatever it is. Sometimes it can be some crazy stuff of, what I need to help me win this tournament. Like Lake Narbonne in February, day 2. Wind's blowing 20 miles an hour. It's sleeting. It's 28 degrees, and I watched him all day dig his hand in a minnow bucket, getting minnows. Keep them coming, keep them coming. And I'm sitting here, my hands are hurting because I'm watching him pick ice off the top of the minnow cooler, getting minnows out of this cooler. So it's so much to our team that, you know, most people might overlook. It's a very complicated system, but we can sit in a boat and fish a tournament and never say a word to each other. You know, we've been around each other since I was born, so we understand our roles and expectations, and we could sit there all day and not even talk, and we would both understand this is what's going on and this is what I need to be doing. This is, you know, so he knows I'm going to get up there and I'm going to put 100% into it, and he's going to be right there behind me giving his 100% to you know, make sure we can make it happen.
That's right.
What's next?
At this point, I don't know. You know, I never thought I would be sitting right here. We've had a heck of a year, you know.
Yeah, that song, you know.
I don't know how we could ever, you know, up this. We're definitely going to try, just because that's me, you know. Next year we're gonna fish more tournaments. We're going to keep pushing, just to see where, you know, we can take this.
How many wins in 2022?
So in 2022, I have fished 22 tournaments, and I've won 16 of them.
That is I don't know if it's ever been even close to being done.
And this made win number 23 overall.
In 2 years?
Yes, sir.
I wonder what that average is. Hayden's actually a whiz at math, I know as well, so he's probably got the average in
I don't
his
have the
head.
number for this year, but I mean, 16 out of 22 is over 50% of the tournaments I show up to. So
Even from beginning to end, that average is still.
What was your worst finish?
my worst finish this year would have been a 5th place on Grenada Lake in the spring tournament.
Well,
for
see,
Crappie Masters.
to me, that's more impressive than the number of wins, is being consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have the stats of, you know, every tournament I've ever fished, and
I knew he would.
it's 23 wins, 8 second place finishes, a couple thirds, 3 or 4 fifths, and a 10th, a 13th, and a 42nd. And I will always keep the 42nd on my resume. It will never go anywhere.
That's definitely. It's cool to sit back and some hometown guys, you know, representing the Magnolia State. We're known for crappie fishing forever, and finally, you know, we've got a couple guys that got out in the sport. And in 2022, you know, I seen Eric Cagle yesterday, and he said, "Here comes the bully." He's been bullying. These guys have been bullying everybody else in the tournament world, and you know, everybody else is just gonna make them better.
That's right.
It's just gonna make them better. So, man, my hat's off. I mean, of course, like I said, if you ever want to talk fishing, Hayden's always up for it. We spent a lot of hours talking crappie fishing in the past, and still do, actually. You know, we'll say we both got on the same lake. And oddly enough, we very rarely see each other on the water.
I bet we haven't seen each other 3 times all summer.
Yeah, and
were you out there today? Yeah, I was right here. Well, I was right over here, but
I don't know how it happened. I really don't.
And we fish a lot of the same areas too.
Yeah.
We never land in the same area together.
Well, we have a good respect for each other. If I ever seen him in an area, I would never get on top of him, and vice versa.
And if I know he's fishing these 3 or 4 brush piles,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll go to timber. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
it's
right. It's, you know, we have a good bond together on our end of things, and you know, I think it's how the fishing world overall is. It's, you know, a lot of respect for each other and rooting for each other, and you know, sometimes even bullying each other to get them to get better in a good way.
Yeah.
And you know, I like it saying Hayden the Hammer, because I seen the storm coming. I told David McWilliams from Magnolia Crappie Club before Hayden, and we were talking about him fishing tournaments. And Hayden and I have been in the boat before then, and I told David, I said, "You're about to have somebody come in here and wreck it." And he's like, "You really think so?" And I said, "No, I'm telling you what I know. I've been in the boat with him. I've been in the boat with a lot of guys, and I see it. And hey, just keep it up, dude. And I still want you to be part of the Crappie Connection and do these podcasts. And you're the next generation. Us three guys have kind of other end of the spectrum. So you younger guys, we're leaving the torch here before too long for you to keep this sport growing.
Right.
You need it to grow.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to try everything I can, to help it grow. I love seeing the youth because, I was that kid.
Yeah.
I was keeping up with the big guys fishing tournaments and all that. I was the 15, 16-year-old kid bringing my boat to school every day, going fishing after school, trying to get better. So I love to see youth, getting into the sport.
Well, man, like I said, three national championships. You got Magnolia Crappie Club championship this year.
I'm a 4-time state champion and 3-time national.
That's amazing. Todd, you got anything?
No, I'm just listening.
Well, let's talk about this tournament.
Yeah, do it. How'd you break it down? Let me hear some details. I know you got them.
Back to the detail part, I pay attention to detail. This tournament has been won the last 3 years with someone in their element. They're doing exactly what they do. You can go back to Tony Shepard. They were casting at brush piles. That's Tony Shepard. You can look at Jerry Hancock, fishing deep timber, catching fish suspended 25 foot down. That's Jerry Hancock. You can look at Jeff Large, shallow mud flat, catching white crappie. That's Jeff Large. And I'm sitting here thinking, the only way I have a shot at this tournament is I have to put myself in my element. And first day of practice, we went way up the river. I said, we got to find the dirtiest water we can. I said, hope we can find some suspended, white crappie. And 2 hours into the first practice morning, I told Dad, let's get this show rolling. We're going to spend the rest of the week practicing other things to see if we can make it work. But I see the fish here. This is my element. I can catch a crappie suspended in 4 to 15 foot of water.
What's your element? We talked about it before you weighed in yesterday, but what's your element?
My element is an open water white crappie in less than 15 foot of water. Ross Barnett, we fish year round 10 to 12 foot, basically. Yep. That's my comfort zone. I don't care to fish structure. You would think with me fishing Ross Barnett, there's structure everywhere, fish all over it. That would be my element, but I want him sitting out in the open. I just feel like I can entice him a little bit better if he's not, butted up against that wood. We found the dirtiest water we could. There was big white crappie suspended in it. We watched people pre-fishing. Everybody would come up there. They would get right up against the bank and fish the timber, both sides of it. We were fishing the inside turns, basically on sandbars. We had 2 different areas that were about a mile stretch long, and they were slam full of fish. We were catching 80, 90 fish a day probably, because there's so many 1 pound fish in this lake. It's unbelievable. You could come out here and fill a boat. I don't know what the limit is. We never even looked into it, but it would not take long to put, a pile of fish in the boat. First day of practice, that's what we did.
Bait wise, let's dig into that detail, because you've got some details past that.
Yeah, so, a lot of people think I'm a minnow fisherman strictly, but I want to fish a minnow because I believe that if a big crappie's going to bite anything, that's what he's going to bite.
Right.
But, going into this tournament, I'm like, okay, we can't do that. Let's bring everything out we've got. And pre-fishing, we probably threw 80 or 90 different jigs on these fish just to see, different reactions.
If one was better than the other?
Just, yeah, and during practice, none of it mattered. I caught fish on a black and chartreuse. I caught them on a solid clear. We caught fish on everything we threw at them during practice, but when this cold front hit, they locked up. Those white crappie just completely locked down. The first 2 days during that cold front, I could not make the big fish bite. I was just weighing 7, solid fish. I was seeing 5 or 6 fish a day that were those fish, 180 plus fish in this lake, and I didn't catch one for 2 days. First day was really bad. It was super cold. The cold front just came through, and we were throwing basically everything in the boat at them again, because we had 2 or 3 baits during practice that were outshining the rest. We show up the first, morning of the tournament, and they didn't want anything to do with them. I was catching a few fish, but I was getting way more of them not bite than bite. So Dad's back there digging around, try this, try that, and he pulls out a jig. and it's a big old 3-inch hair jig, orange and chartreuse. And I turned around and looked, I said, they aren't going to bite that. He said, well, just try it. He said, we've tried everything else, just see what happens. First fish I dropped on, boom. I'm like, why did he just bite this? We've showed him all this natural stuff, all of this, that, and the other, and I put this big old ugly hair jig that probably is tied for Grenada lake, and first fish bit it, second fish bit it, and day one we caught basically every wave fish on that big old jig. Well, going into day two, we're like, hey, we got the bait now. We show up and the water color looks completely different. The first day it was muddy. We probably had a foot of visibility. We show up the next day and it's green. It's super green and it's a little bit clear.
I wonder why.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure the river was turning over up there. So like when you were running up every morning, you would see this nasty foam basically on the water, and throughout the day you would get in areas and there would just be little streams of bubbles everywhere coming up. I'm not sure what it was. I'm still trying to figure that out. But so day two we show up with the jig we caught them on day one, like, oh yeah, we got it, we're gonna wreck them today, and show up, drop on the first 3 or 4 tournament fish, nothing. I'm like, well, back to the drawing board, So we pulled out a tried and true. I've won several tournaments on this bait, and it is, I think Bobby Garland calls it the Patriot. Mid-South calls it Firecracker. It's just a white jig with some blue and red glitter in it. I don't know what it is about it, but they can't stand it. And day two, we caught all of our fish on that. Yesterday, we ended up fishing a monkey milk. Everything in just a baby shad profile. We tried all different kinds of profiles, big profile, small profile, and it just seemed like that, medium-sized 2-inch bait seemed to work a little bit better for us. Yesterday morning, going into the tournament, everybody's telling me, Hayden, don't fish for white crappie. Those black crappie are going to beat you. Everybody saying it. Black crappie are winning this tournament. I was like, well, I know what I'm seeing, and if they'll ever fire, I can put a weight together. And the first 2 days, they wouldn't fire. I mean, we saw a fish day two that I guarantee you would have went 2 1/4, without a doubt. I mean, it looked like a Grenada fish when I boxed her up. And she nosed up under it and turned and swam off. And day three, we show up, and the first tournament fish I see, I ease down to her, she comes up under it and bites it. 185. I said, that's the biggest fish we've caught all week. Didn't go 20 yards, went 180. Another 20 yards, 160. Day three, every big fish we got on bit. We ended up putting 4, I would call them kickers for this tournament, 180 plus fish in the boat, and we probably had the other 3 hooked to get them in the boat too, but they were short striking. These fish, they didn't really want to bite, but they would bite if you showed it to him just perfect. And we ran around to our other spot, checked it for a little while. Those fish were on the bottom, so we came back to where we were, and I pull in there and throw the trolling underwater. I probably didn't go 100 yards, and I see a fish, and Dad's standing behind me. He's holding the net, just watching what I'm doing, and he's like, you want the net? And I was like, no, it's a decent fish, but it's not a good fish. I drop down to the fish. She comes up under and smokes it, and I bow into her, and he's like, ooh, that bowed up a little bit. And I'm like, I'm just swinging. Just stay where you're at. I come up, when it breaks the surface, I'm like, oh, my gosh. Well, I'm in it now. I'm committed, so we're coming. And I missed the rail of the boat when I tried to flip. And so I had to retry and get her up over the side of the boat. It was the biggest fish I caught all week. It weighed 2.00 on my scale. But it's something, I don't know, it didn't click that it was that big of a fish when I saw it. There was shad everywhere. I'm sure that probably played a part in my image, but I was surprised whenever I got her up out of the water and it was that big of a fish.
Then you knew.
Definitely.
That was 12 o'clock, and we had 12 1/4 pounds on our handheld scale. I said, Dad, it's only taking us 40 to 45 minutes to run back, but let's double it and just make sure. We got 100 grand on line. We've got a good sack of fish. I said, last thing we want to do is risk, running in 2 minutes late, because we wanted to color 154 with the 160. Mm-hmm. So we packed it up. I jumped at the console, turned the key over, and it didn't crank. And
big heart attack.
Panic mode,
Yeah.
We're 55 miles from the boat ramp. Panic mode. And for some reason, when my motor turned over like that, it shorted my electrical out. I'm not really sure what happened. I lost both of my live wells. Lost all my graphs. I was like, ooh, this is not good, Well, he's back there thinking it's a wiring issue, and he's back there digging around. So all 3 days, well, the first 2 days, we were running 2 fuel tanks, 25 gallons in both sides. We would run one all the way empty, switch it over, and run the other one down. Well, day 3, we knew we were going to get a Marshall. We knew we had to make that run. I was trying to keep my speed up as much as I could because I knew I only had 4 hours to fish once I got up there. So we didn't fill one tank all the way up. We only put 10 or so gallons in it. We knew exactly how much fuel we were burning this week. Well, accidentally, we ran up there on that tank, and it killed. We burned all of it. I'm guessing we were basically running out whenever we pulled up.
Yeah.
And we fished around all day, and we were out of gas, but we didn't know we were out of gas. You know, we were thinking something was wrong. I was like, go back there and, you know, pump the bulb and see what it feels like. And it was loose. So he switched it over to the other tank, started pumping, and started priming. I was like, okay, here we go. You know, we're doing something. Turned it over, and she cranked up, but my live well still wouldn't work. We only had one side that was coming on. The other side wouldn't come on. So I was like, well, put the 7-way fish in there, keep the 2 spares in the side that's not pumping, and, you know, we got to go. Hopefully they'll stay alive for the hour boat ride. And I got it on pad and started punching the button. I'm like, come on, turn on, turn on. And finally, it turned on and started pumping, so we threw 3 more fish back on that other side and took off. Made it back to the boat ramp with probably 20 minutes to spare.
Yep.
We got in with plenty of time.
That has to be a relief.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it definitely was. When that motor cranked up and she got on pad, I was a happy man.
Yeah, once we got within trolling distance of that ramp, it was a good feeling.
I mean, I told him after day 2 weigh-in, we were leaving the ramp, untying the ropes, and I said, just give me one more day, girl. I just need one more day out of you, you know. I've beat you all year. I know you're hurting.
You've beat her more than all year.
I need one more day out of you. And she did it, and she is now retired.
What's the replacement? I already know. I know you've been.
Yeah, I bought a 2000 model Ranger 522.
Tank.
I've looked at, you know, several boats. I've been into all kinds of different boats. And it just fit me. You know, it's a big boat. If you want it to go somewhere, you got to put it there. It's not just going to drift around like that Skeeter. That Skeeter's super limber. It doesn't ride good in rough water, and it cripples us in some tournaments because, you know, it doesn't ride good in rough water, and we've got to slow down. And some tournaments we've even had to idle for miles and miles because it just won't run in the chop. So I'm repowering it. It's going to be fully loaded out, you know, when I get done with it.
I know it. I talked to Hayden, and he'll say, well, I'm doing this to this boat today.
Yeah, so
he's been doing this for how many months now?
Ooh, it's been a minute. We bought it in May, and it hasn't been in the water since I bought it. But when it's finished, it's going to be 100%, and I wasn't going to, you know, shortcut anything. I had problems getting a lot of my parts for it. I waited on my jack plate for 8 to 10 weeks. Waited on my Minn Kota Raptors for probably 6 or 7 weeks. So that slowed me down a lot. You know, parts weren't easily accessible. And I've tried to build it in a way that when I'm done with it, it's, you know, fully paid off to where I don't have that burden over my head.
I think you made sure of that this week too.
It's going to be a vessel. I mean, it's set up for exactly what I think I need to be, you know, competitive.
Then you get your boat back.
Yeah, the Skeeter is just gonna go back to its old way of living. You know, fish 2 or 3 times a month, and she earned it. She can have a break now. We've ran her all year. Went through lower units, trolling motors, all kinds of stuff. I took a big old gash of fiberglass out of the bottom of it. She's hurting. She's hurting.
Now, if Houston don't jump in it, and
That's the plan. We're gonna give him a boat that is fully set up, you know, ready to fish, and we're gonna let him, you know, see what he can do. He's gonna start fishing a few tournaments.
So that's probably fishing to scare some people here. Another Jeffries kid of Dan's fishing to get out and get involved.
They asked on the other podcast. I said, you know, what about your other brothers? I said, well, we're training right now. You know, let's see what they can do, because Houston, he's a better fisherman than I am. You know, he doesn't understand all of these concepts that we're doing, but if he'll get out there and put the time in, he will surpass me without a doubt.
That's scary. Well, man, I've had a blast watching you. We'll do some more stuff as we always do, and finally got Dan on here.
Yeah, I'm glad
I've been working on him.
Glad to be here.
We was going to do it at the Mississippi Wildlife Extravaganza, and things just didn't work out that go around to get him on there.
Yeah.
But we've been We've been talking about it a while and finally got
Yep. Glad to be here.
Mr.
Enjoyed
Hammer
it.
Jeffries up here. All right. Till next time, it's Brad Chappell here.
Todd Huckabee, congratulations.
Thank you. Hayden Jeffries.
Dan Jeffries.
Till next time, holla.
From Big Muddy River, a place I'll always remember. Cabin on the lake and a fishing pole. Forever here I'll rest my soul. I can feel